Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm back with another full setup video here with the Lenovo Smart Display. Now I have a giant 10-inch Smart Display to set up here today, get it opened up and fully set up. But what these videos are about they're intended to be a resource for you to come back and forth over time as you want to set up different components. So go ahead, bookmark this video, bookmark the playlist that it's in as well, and go ahead and down in the description below you're going to find different time codes that allow you to click on and skip back and forth between the different parts of the video to help you set up this product fully. So let's get this opened up and set up fully the Lenovo Smart Display. So what's amazing about this product is just the sheer size. So you can see I can barely fit it in the screen here with my little GoPro camera there. But ultimately this is a giant box that we're gonna get opened up here today. So on the bottom of the box here is actually how you get this opened. And again, we can barely see this thing, so I'm actually going to turn it towards the big camera here. So that is a massive, massive device. And as you take it out, it does have all the wrapping on it. There are, of course, some manuals that you get in the box, and then the power adapter as well. So that's really all you're getting, and then otherwise it's just styrofoam inside the box. So we don't need that, let's get rid of it. All right, now you can see I took a little picture here up on the phone screen, but ultimately what this is saying is that it is 50 or 60 hertz capable, so that's international market ready, and 100 to 240 volt ready as well. Now this conversion is going to 20 volts, so that's a little bit of a different conversion, you know, not something that we see generally on devices like this. The Smart Display itself, we're going to run through the physical features in a moment, but it just had the plastic wrapping on it that I had to take off there. So let's talk a little bit about the physical features. Now obviously that is a nice big screen there that you have access to. That's fantastic. On the top here, you can see a couple of the volume control buttons here, and this is your mute microphone button. Now you can see that there is a physical stand at the back of this, and this is your power port way back here. So that's what you have on this device. Now on the side here, you can see a physical switch, and this actually allows you to cover up the camera, and it's a little bit difficult to move if you're not directly on it, but I don't know if you can see it. There's a little orange tint in there. I'm trying to move it back and forth a little here. There's a little orange tint in here that shows that I've hidden the actual camera. So this camera here that you have on the device, it actually allows you to do Google Duo video display calls. So that's one of the really great features about this device. Now there's also a bunch of microphone ports, and there is a light sensor on this device as well, but we'll get to that. Now the one last thing I want to show you before we really get into the setup on the device here, or get it plugged in and get it set up, is this. And this is a really important feature as far as I'm concerned. This allows you to do portrait style video calls, and I think that's, again, really important. I really like this thought in terms of the design from Lenovo. So I've just plugged in my device, and we're going to start here basically with the Google Home application. And for the balance of the video here, for when you need it, you're going to see the Smart Display sitting over here, and we're going to continue to work within the Google Home application here. I also have some Google Home devices sitting over here as well that we'll work with in terms of multi-room audio and some other features.
Hi, I'm your Google Assistant. To get started, download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
So there you go. Now, if you were watching right as this device basically booted up, it said set up one device. It's showing up in my application. Now, you don't have to have the application open when you first start or plug in the Lenovo Smart Display, but it doesn't hurt, and then you can see it say set up one device. If you didn't have that, there is an add button right here, and you can use that add button to go ahead and just simply add a device. So let me show you how to actually go through that method. You could hit the setup device button there, or you can hit the setup device button here. Now, this is a Google Home type of device. You say set up a new device, and now we're choosing a home to put it within. Now, that home for you probably only says one home, or you might have to create a new home. Just create a name for that as your home to start yourself off here with this device. You don't need to worry about that too much. Now, it's going through and it's looking for devices, and one of the struggles, or one of the biggest struggles, is Wi-Fi. So we're going to talk about some Wi-Fi troubleshooting in a minute, but it should find your device right away. If it doesn't, you probably have some kind of device right next to this that's broadcasting Wi-Fi or interfering with the device. So in general, keep your phone and the device relatively close together. They don't need to be side by side, and don't have a ton of other devices next to it that are getting in the way of that broadcast. So it's broadcasting a Wi-Fi signal right now. So we're going to tap on that and just hit next. So the first screen that popped up, did we see this code? Yes, we do. We see it over there. And do we want to help improve Google Assistant Smart Display? So this is basically send stats and crash reports and things. I usually say no, and the reason for that is I have too many of these devices in my home, so how many reports and statistics do I want to be sending here? Now, the Google Assistant Smart Display, for me, this is showing up. Likely it's not showing up for you. This is basically, it was built in a different country than mine. It was built in the US and sent to me here. Now, I'm in Canada, by the way. So this device, where is it physically in my home? Now, this is going to end up in my kitchen. And that's what I'll say the Smart Display, the Lenovo Smart Display, is a really good placement for. I have a number of videos on the channel that talk about how you can use this device as, you know, really helpful in your kitchen, and there's some new features. Now, I'm just going to hit next, and now I'm choosing Wi-Fi, my Wi-Fi network. Now, you will choose your Wi-Fi network, and then it will require a password. And so what I want to tell you is, it's not going to ask me for my password. It will ask you for yours, and you'll have to input that. Now, this is a good point to break, and I'm going to take you over to a different video where I talked about some Wi-Fi troubleshooting steps about a Google Home Hub or a Google Home Mini, but ultimately this is very similar. Now, if you did struggle for any reason getting your Wi-Fi set up, here's a couple of things you can do. There's not a ton that Google's going to kind of give out here or tell you can do. My device is going through an update, so just keep that in mind here as I'm talking. But what I'll tell you is that you need an iOS 9.1 or greater, or an Android 4.4 or greater device to get that connection process to occur correctly. Another thing that you're going to want to make sure, you know, if you've struggled here, get this a little closer to your router just for that initial setup. Thereafter, it should be okay. And you're also not going to want a ton of devices sitting right next to it, you know, that are Wi-Fi broadcasters or Wi-Fi capable as well. So if you have a bunch of Wi-Fi devices on the 2.4 gigahertz band sitting right next to this, that could interfere. Some other things that, and Google tells you this right on their support website, they tell you basically restart your router, restart the wireless, so turn off that wireless, basically the signal from your router, turn that on, turn it back on, and as it's coming back up, you know, you might have dumped some of the items off of your Wi-Fi network, and that might just help you to get this initial connection going on. If you are struggling with that, the other thing you can do is switch the connection to a 5 gigahertz setup basically with your router. Now, that would allow you then to set this device up as a 5 gigahertz. So it is a dual band device. Now, just a couple of other things. In general, network congestion is going to be your biggest issue, but finally, if you really are struggling here and you can't get this connected, support.google.com, head there, have a quick chat, let them walk you through the troubleshooting steps, and I think it'll become fairly clear. Okay, now continuing on, this is the portion where we set up the Google Assistant, and my device is actually physically updating now as I do set up the Google Assistant on the device. Now, Google Assistant is what answers all of your queries, your questions, any commands you have for the device. This is physically what is telling you, answering anything you do with a device. All right, so my device has started updating as a result, and we're going to set up the Google Assistant as the next part. Now, the Google Assistant is what physically powers the device, or it answers all of your questions. This is really the brains behind the Lenovo Smart Display. So we're going to go ahead and hit next here. This is really just telling you some information about your privacy, about the partners that Google works with, and how they use some of that data. So go ahead and read that stuff because it is important for you. Now I'm just hitting next, or I've just moved on to the next screen. Voice match, you know what? Basically what it's doing for you is teaching the Google Assistant your voice, and that helps in terms of recognition. It also helps with things in the future like personal results. So I would recommend that you do this. You just hit this view more button, and then you have to agree to what they're talking about here, because you are giving them a voice model, and what's going to happen is you're going to have to use the wake word 4 times and just in succession here with the device. I won't have to do that because I've already taught the Google Assistant my voice, and you can see it there. Now the next step is personal results. Now personal results is that second component to what we just talked about. It allows you to get your calendar, your contacts, your reminders, all kinds of things physically on this device. So that means you can make those phone calls because your contacts are being uploaded and used between your phone and this device. So again, I would recommend this. This allows you to manage the calendar as well. Next up is your address. This is physically where you live, and on the Smart Display itself here, you do have a navigation component. So putting that in allows the Lenovo Smart Display to know where you are, and later we'll talk about where you're going in terms of your work environment. Now, adding media services. Here you can see I have a number of check marks on the screen right now. That's because I've already connected other devices. Clearly I have a few in my home. Now you can see the plus down there on Deezer, and when I tap on that, it allows me to link my account. Now I don't actually have a Deezer account, but if I just hit yes, link account, I would have to put in my credentials. And that's really the same for these other music services. Now, what I'll tell you is this goes back a little bit, and you're going to hear this time and time again throughout the video. Whatever you've put in as your Google account at the start of the setup process, and that's a critical discussion here. You put that account in, and what it means is you're connected to certain Google services. So YouTube Music, you can usually sign into a different account here, but as we go forward with the calendar and the other integration, that's really what you've tied together, as that Google account is tied. So you know, the next button here, the default music service, or the next screen rather, the default music service, I'm choosing Google Play Music. You could choose Spotify, you could use YouTube Music, or whatever other services. I've seen Pandora in other countries. This is really going to be dependent on what country you're in. So choose which one you want. Whenever you just say, hey, play music, that's the one that will start. So if you have playlists in something, I would say use that. Now, video calling, I already have, again, linked my Google Duo account. I'll show you a little later in the process how to link your Google Duo account if you don't do it here. So you could say not now, and you could just skip this, and I'll show you later in the video how to make sure your Google Duo account is all loaded and connected. But this is basically linking the Duo account to this device that I already have set up. So in general, what you're going to have is a Google Duo account, and again, I'd say use that one that you used the Google account to sign up on this application, or to log into this application, the Google Home application. So I'm just going to hit use Duo for now, and again, I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. Now, ambient mode is basically what turns the Lenovo Smart Display into a a digital photo frame, and you're able to connect to a number of different services, but not right on this screen. So if you'd like to use Facebook, you can look at this a little bit later, but again, Google Photos is there and it's attached to whatever Google account you used. You will be able to pull the Google Photos from there. So I can hit next after I've tapped on that, and then whatever albums I have show up here. Now you can see I'm not using albums in my Google Photos account on this Google account. So instead, I could use the art gallery or a full screen clock, and that's what I'm going to use just for the purposes of the demo here today. And I'm going to pick a relatively dark clock, and that allows me to just show you better screens actually as we go through the demo here. Now, ultimately, I'm almost done the setup process, and truthfully, my smart display is almost done updating. So we're almost ready to go forward with getting this device set up. So I'm going to hit next, and this is where it's just telling me, hey, I'm not finished that update. Give me some extra time here.
Voice guidance for thousands of recipes, control smart home devices, and more. You can also ask your assistant to complete multiple actions with a single command. This is called a routine. Just say, hey Google, good morning. And your assistant will show you your calendar, the weather, your commute, and whatever else you need to start your day. Want to share the moment? You can video call friends and family hands-free with Google Duo. Also built in on new Android phones and available for free on iPhones. You can connect compatible smart home devices like the lights and thermostat through the Google Home app on your phone. There you can set up news and media, customize routines, and change the ambient mode, which is what you'll see when you're not using your smart display. To adjust volume or brightness, swipe up from the bottom of the screen. And anytime you want to exit, just swipe from the left edge. Give it a try now and see what your smart display can do for you.
All right, now, as soon as that update was applied and I was sitting at this screen, there was that little video that you saw. It was a pretty good little video for explaining some of the basic functions of the device, so I wanted to let that run for a little bit. Now that I'm all done, what I'll tell you about this screen, kitchen display is ready. Now it's saying it's kitchen display because that's where I put it in, and it's a display. So that's the initial name. I'll show you how to adjust that later. Let's hit continue. So there you go. You're basically ready now to use this device. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the device settings first. So that's one of the critical pieces for you. And then we're going to go through the application settings. And finally, we'll talk about some of the application specifics and how to get in deeper. We'll talk about connecting other smart home equipment and really then using routines and some of those more detailed functions. So let's start with device settings. Now, in order to find the device settings, there's a couple of different ways to go, but the best way is simply here in the home screen, scrolling down until I get to kitchen, and you can see I have a kitchen speaker and a kitchen display. Now, I've brought my kitchen speaker down here right now, but here's my kitchen display. Now, I've gone in there, I tapped there, and what I'll say is there was also a play music button there. You could hit that and it would start kind of randomly. It would choose from your default service, but choose a random song based on your preferences. So right now it's not playing anything, but I could start that in a second, and I'll show you that a little bit when we get to the music component of the demo. So now up in the top right, there's this gear icon, and I want to hit that and go in there. Now you can see I have a linked account, the name of the device, the home, the room, the group, and Wi-Fi, and then digital well-being. We're going to go through all of those, and there's more settings down below. Now the linked accounts, you can go ahead and you can go into that and you can just see the accounts that are linked, but ultimately that's all that's there. We can link other accounts in the basically in the settings for the whole Google home account here, or home application rather. Now changing the name, this is where you can come in and you can call it something else. I'll leave it as kitchen display for now, but you could make that adjustment and it applies to the device relatively quickly. The home, this is again, now I'll talk a little bit about why you might want multiple homes. Let's say you have a child and you only want them to be able to access certain things, and you only want them to be able to control certain devices. You could segregate the different devices in your home by simply putting them in different homes here. So you could create a second one and basically call it the kids' home or your kid's name, and then they won't have access to controlling, say, the lights or the thermostat or things like that that you don't necessarily want them to have access to, but you could give them control of their own room lighting. So in terms of the room, hitting that, you can go in and you could choose a new room that this device is in. And why might that be important? Well, when you say to the Lenovo Smart Display, turn off the lights, it will turn off the lights in the room that it's in. So it contextually knows, you know, from that interface in the home menu there, it knows what devices are in each room. So it's a contextual command thing. So when you change the room that it's physically in here, then it will change what it affects. Now you can always, if you'd like, say, shut off the lights in X room or Y room, and then it will shut off those as well. But just know that when you do that basis there, that basic command of turn off the lights or turn on the lights, it will do it in the room it's in. Now, in terms of groups, these are multi-room audio groups. So what that means for you is basically this device can be added to multi-room audio groups, and that's one of the recent feature upgrades that they put into the Lenovo Smart Display. So you can just add it to whatever group you want. You could create a new group, which you can see down at the bottom, and then you can, if you like, you can add it to multiple of these groups. So you can see I just clicked on 3 of them and I could add them to it. So for now, I will add it to one of the groups that I have in my home, and later, again, when we go through music, I'll go through creating a group and doing all of that work and then putting this in that group and showing you how to use it as part of the music demo. Moving down in the device settings, you can see the Wi-Fi, and you know, if you just needed to change what Wi-Fi this was on, this is how you do it. You can hit forget this network and you're done there. Now, digital well-being is quite the feature. This is going to take me a few minutes to walk through actually. So I'm going to hit next, and what we're doing is we're setting up filters for what is possible on this device. So I'm going to hit next, and the first thing to talk about is who do you want to filter. Now, I have voice match my voice on this device, so therefore I could either filter it for everyone, including myself, or other accounts and guests. Now, what I'll say about other accounts and guests, over time we're going to see basically, and this is the way automation works in industry, you have hierarchy of accounts, and we don't really have that right now. We don't really have supervised accounts, but you will in the future, and so therefore you can basically set that by account in the future, I think. So now the devices here, you can see I've just selected kitchen display, so that's just this device, but I could select multiple, and you can see that I have other devices in my home with certain filters on them based on where they are and what they're doing. But now once I've selected the devices I want to, you can see I can turn them on and off. I just hit the next at the bottom. Now next up are videos, and I don't think you necessarily want to filter everything out, but if this was a kid's device, you could just use those YouTube Kids video to filter. So you can see how I'm allowing it only to play filtered videos right now from YouTube Kids. So I'm going to turn on a little bit more here. I'm going to include the restricted mode videos. So, you know, in general, that filter should work. Keep in mind, it's not going to work 100%. And if you want, you can block all videos from YouTube there. Now, next up is music. And this filter, I think, actually can be used very effectively if you have multiple music services connected. So you can see that I have certain or different accounts here, the 3 accounts that we talked about when we set it up. I could leave one that's not my default service, say Spotify, without a restricted mode on it, or with allowing basically explicit music. So if my child's not home or whomever I want to kind of keep this explicit music away from, I can go ahead and I can uncheck that music service, and it will allow me to play that explicit music for that service. And I'd have to specifically say on Spotify to get it to play that music. So you can of course allow all music, or you can go ahead and you can block all music as well. Now there's a couple of additional controls here, and they can be highly impactful to the way that this device works. So you could block all calls if you'd like, so nobody would be able to make calls on this device. Myself, I'm actually going to leave that because I want my child in the near future to be able to make calls on this device, and I'm going to teach him how to do that. Do I want to allow the assistant to basically answer any query, or do I want to restrict the queries? So when I do that restriction, it really restricts the device down to weather, news, very basic queries. So, you know, kind of keep that in mind. And then the family-friendly actions will really restrict the Google Assistant actions. So those are third-party actions that you can install on the device and allow to basically create some additional functionality. Now, if they weren't family friendly or marked as family friendly, they would not work if you said only allow family friendly actions. And I'll say that's a developing part of the marketplace, of the assistant marketplace. So how well that's going to work right now, I'm not really clear on. I haven't tried all the actions that are out there. There's literally thousands. So now that I've hit done, my filter is all complete, and now it's downtime. So do you want to schedule some downtime when this device is dead quiet, it's not doing anything? And I think that's what you want. Now, alarms and timers will still work. Keep that in mind. Again, this is a very similar interface, so this is going to start looking repetitive. The kitchen display is the one I've selected. I'm just hitting next. Which days do I want this to happen? So do I want it on school nights? That's a nice, easy choice. Or do I want to customize? And I'm going to choose all the days because this is in a public location in my house. I'm going to customize when that downtime begins. So you can see I'm setting it at 11, and that downtime ends at 6 a.m. So basically, this device is not going to do anything. It's not going to bother me from 11 till 6 every day right now. And you can set that downtime to whatever days and times you'd like. So that's digital well-being in a nutshell here. And we're all done that component of the assistant setup process. Moving down the list, there's a couple of things here. Default speaker. So you could choose any of your groups that you've created as the default speaker here. And that would mean when you asked it to play music, it would play on that group or that speaker. And you can now choose Chromecast version 2 or 3. You can choose Chromecast audio. You can choose Google Home Hubs, Google Home Minis, or you can choose Lenovo Smart Displays and the other smart displays that are out on the market, or you can choose those groups. So if I wanted to always play on the office group, I just tap that and it sets that as the default speaker. Now, for now, again, we're going to get to those demos, so I'm going to leave it on the kitchen display itself. Now, the default TV, and this is a little more of an interesting discussion with a smart display. I think in general, you want it to be the default on that display. You might want Chromecast interaction with these devices, so you can choose those. You can see my basement Chrome right there, or other displays you might want to be your default TV. So when you ask it to play YouTube video, it will play automatically on here. Now, one thing to note, Netflix is not going to work, so just give up on that right now and move on with life. You basically have YouTube on here right now. I'm sure in the future we're going to see those different connected services start to work here. But for now, the default TV, and again, this is the same with default speakers. If I don't choose one, it will use that as the default TV or speaker. In terms of alarms and timers, and this is a good place to start doing some of our demonstrations. So you can set an independent alarm and timer volume here. And if you'd like, that can be independent of everything else. Now, there are other alarms and timers that you can use. So let's just start a couple of those alarms. Set an alarm for 12:55.
Your alarm's set for 12:55 p.m.
Set a music alarm for 12:54 p.m.
Sure. And what music would you like me to play?
Foo Fighters.
There, I'll play Foo Fighters music for 12:54 p.m.
So you can see I set a couple of alarms there. One of them was a music alarm and one of them was a standard alarm. So you can set music and media alarms. Now the other thing is timers. Set a timer for 3 minutes.
Sure, 3 minutes. Starting now.
Cancel all timers.
All right, consider it canceled.
Cancel all my alarms.
Sure, it's canceled.
Now I can go ahead, you can see I can set multiple timers, I can set multiple alarms, and the multiple timers will show up on screen for you, so that's really nice. You can name your timers to be able to separate them as well. So you can call it an egg timer and then I don't know, a steak timer, whatever, if you're having steak and eggs, okay? So now you can set those timers differently. The other thing with alarms is you can set them as recurring. So, let's go ahead and do that here. So set a recurring alarm.
Okay, when for?
7 a.m.
Got it, a repeating alarm for 7 a.m. And when do you want it to repeat?
Every weekday.
All right, your alarm's set on weekdays at 7 a.m.
So there you go, I set a recurring alarm. I could set a recurring music alarm if I'd like. So you can see you can combine all of those different services together in different ways and basically piece it together as an alarm or a timer as you see fit. Now moving down still in the device settings here, I can enable night mode. So enable night mode is basically where you can basically minimize the volume to a certain level or leave it as a max. So, if I only want it at that level here at about 20%, I can make that happen from a certain time again. So you could align this with the digital well-being setting, or you could keep it independent. And let's say you have a child who goes to bed a little earlier. I'm going from 9 till 6. And when it's enabled, I can either leave on do not disturb mode or not. So you can block sounds from reminders and broadcast messages, which we'll go through in a bit here. So night mode in general, I think is a good feature, and paired with that digital well-being, I think it's a really good combination. Now, if I'd like, I can turn on do not disturb mode just entirely for the device, where none of the broadcast messages or spoken notifications or any of those things will show up on the device. I'm not going to turn that on now, but it's just an on-off switch. Let's continue down. Now, here's ambient mode again, and you'll notice when we go into here, before we had Google Photos, the art gallery, and the full screen clock. Now, there is an experimental mode here, and you can see Facebook and Flickr. So when I tap on Facebook, I can actually go in and get my Facebook content. And it's the same with Flickr here. You would have to sign in if this was your first time, but you can also just choose the timeline photos, and now that is what will show up on the device. So now that I've done that, it will sit there and it will roll through those, and I can also choose to show the weather, the time, and personal photo data, which I usually turn off. Now, how often do I want the slideshow to adjust? Do I want it every 5 seconds or every minute? You can make that adjustment as well. Now again, I'm going to take this back to the full screen clock just so I don't keep you guys looking at pictures for this whole demo here. So now going back again, accessibility, and this is a big component and useful for a lot of people. So now the biggest thing is the start and the end sound. Now you've seen the device respond, and it's hard for me to tell if I'm not looking at the device whether or not it's heard me. So when I turn on the start and end sound, thank you.
I'd be happy to. You got it.
I don't know what it was saying you got it to, but there you go. You could hear a start and an end sound there that basically told me that the device had heard me. So I don't need to think about that anymore. I really like those start and end sounds. So now after those start and end sounds, you have audio descriptions and the ability to have what is on the screen read to you by the screen reader option. Now, I actually have a video that goes through all of these different accessibility options. So I'm going to play you a component from that right now. All right, now number one, this is really easy. The start and end sounds, those just basically highlight when the Lenovo Smart Display has heard you say, thanks,
Happy to help.
so you could hear that start little beep sound basically that came on at the start, and the end sound that also said this interaction is over. Now, moving on to audio descriptions, this is something that is intended to actually tell you what's going on screen in front of you. Now, what I'll say is, to date, I have not been able to get anything described on my screen through turning on that feature. It doesn't matter what I do, but it is intended in the future to come in and describe what's going on the screen for you. But like I said, right now, not working. Now, on the contrary, the talkback feature is quite different. It causes the interaction between the device to be really different and a little harder initially to navigate. So what I'll say is, normally when you're working with the Lenovo Smart Display, you can go ahead and you can throw a screen and it will bring you what you're looking for. So you can see that pulling from this side caused this other navigation menu to come up. I can simply scroll along with one finger, make all the changes I want, and anything I tap into, I can just tap with a single finger. Now, when I turn on TalkBack, you're going to notice a pretty big change here. So here I go.
TalkBack on, Assistant.
So now you can see, or you heard, that TalkBack is on, and if I tap on anything,
39 degrees.
so you can see now it's actually telling me what I've tapped on the screen.
Set, scattered showers, 45 degrees, 27 degrees. Double tap to activate.
Now you heard that double tap to activate. So what it's telling me is, now if I'd like to go into that, I tap.
In our Ardrossan tonight, it's predicted to be 39 with showers.
All right, now you saw the interaction there. You can see that it's one tap to basically start the process of bringing something up, and then it's a double tap to actually go into that part of the Lenovo Smart Display. Now the other thing is, navigation has changed. You can't
Mostly cloudy.
use one finger basically to move along. What I'm finding is sometimes two fingers works, but for the most part, I'm having to use three fingers to actually pull the navigation along with the Lenovo Smart Display. Now that's all in the talkback mode, so you can obviously, if you need to, or you're really struggling with interaction, you could turn that talkback mode on and off at different times. But in general, I'll say it's relatively useful to use when you need to know what you're tapping on this Lenovo Smart Display. Now, moving on to some of these video features. So you can see there's a color correction, a color inversion, the ability to magnify the screen, and of course closed captioning. And I think all of these are going to be important for different reasons. First off, let's start off with the easy stuff. Color inversion, you can see right away, and I like this mode actually. I might use this a lot of the time. The only problem is when you're bringing up videos on, say, YouTube, they're inverted as well, and so they are difficult to see. But I like this mode in general, and I wouldn't mind having this mode on all the time, except when it came to videos. The other thing is the ability to magnify the screen. So what you need to do now is triple tap in order to magnify on anything. So you can see I can't scroll around. That's probably the only problem here with this. And you triple tap again, but if you triple tap exactly where you want to look, now you've got that 39 degrees up on the screen. I'm thinking you guys can see that pretty well. All right, now for this next part of the demo, I'm going to leave the color inversion off because it'll show a little bit better here on the screen. But there are some different color correction schemes. So you can actually correct for different things. There's three options: proto anomaly, deuteranomaly, and tritanomaly. So Truthfully, I don't know what any of those mean. I'm assuming they're different portions of color blindness, because what I saw before was different colors being highlighted and removed from the screen. So I'm assuming that's what they're helping for. I don't actually know that. Now, closed captioning is another great feature here. Obviously, video content, that's good to put on all the time for people who might be struggling to hear things. But the other thing is the assistant's voice, and you can actually control the text size and the caption style, so you could actually choose what the different colors are on your screen. So let's go ahead and do a demo with that.
It's 9:58.
Now you can see down here at the bottom, and it kind of got covered up right away, but if you were having a longer conversation or Google Assistant was saying more, there was actually the words, it's 9:58, down at the bottom of the display here. So that's what the closed captioning option gives you. And again, you can change the text size to very large if you'd like, and it will show up much larger along the bottom here. And again, the caption style you can change based on what you have the device looking like. So I think that's a pretty big feature there when we're talking about a smart display. Now, one final thing to go through here, there is this experimental option that Google has added. It's not great in terms of how the device looks after you turn this on, but you can see the high contrast text show up, and I'm sure you saw this darken, that 39 degree here darken quite a bit as I turn that feature on. So I think that's a pretty good run through of the accessibility features. Now, obviously, there's always going to be more that people want, but in general, what I'll say is this makes the device a lot friendlier and a lot more customizable for people who are struggling to either see or hear what this device is saying or showing to them. So now, paired Bluetooth devices, this is a good demo to again stop and do here. So enabling pairing mode, you can do that right here. And now it says connected kitchen display using Bluetooth. Now I happen to think that it's a little more natural to just ask the device to enable Bluetooth. So that's actually an option for you. You can just tell the device to do that. Now, once you go into your device settings and your Bluetooth, you will see this device show up. Now that I've enabled the pairing mode, it will show up down here in other devices. Or, you know, your phone might be a little bit different here, but ultimately it just takes some time to get that Bluetooth enabled. So you can see kitchen display. I tap on kitchen display for this initial pairing effort. After this, it should just pair time and time again. So now, because I've paired my Bluetooth device, you can see my iPhone is listed there, and I'm in Bluetooth connection mode, so it's ready to receive audio from any application I'd like. So I could go ahead and I could use Apple Music if I'd like to connect to. So I'm just going to use Google Play Music right now. It doesn't really matter which service you use, but you can see I could just start music. Now you can see the ability to control volume. I now have two places to basically do that. I can also start to discuss or tell the device to change songs, but when I start to change artists or I start to change what I'm playing, it just doesn't work anymore, and you switch services to playing off of this device itself. So if you want to control by Bluetooth, you use your phone basically the entire time. The only thing you can do is move the volume up and go to the next or previous song. One last thing I forgot to talk about actually in pairing Bluetooth devices, if you want to stop that entirely, that Bluetooth capability, you know, you've paired a device that you no longer have, you can just tap the X there and that gets rid of it. Now, the time format, you can obviously move to a 24-hour clock, and the preview program is something that is a little, you know, it's more important for the Google Home and the Google Home Mini devices, but you can still allow email notifications and you can still hit join program on this device. So now this device is in the preview program here, and even though it's still saying off in the device settings, the preview program just gives you those early access to features. So you're going to get a little bit of a beta, and that might mean that you might get some features that don't work quite right. Now, this is a fairly important feature here, lowering the volume when listening. That will allow you to basically, you know, when it's playing music and you use that wake word, it basically quiets down the music so that you can give it a command and it can actually hear that. I would say leave that on. Do you want to let others control your cast media? And there's that help improve Google Assistant Smart Display. So that's the sending of statistics that I said no thanks to in the early setup process. Now you can remove the device from home from here. There's a number of different ways to do that, but this is a quick way of doing that as well. So if you ever say sell a device like this, remove it from your home and factory reset, which, you know, you're going to need to look up how to do that, but essentially it's holding the two volume buttons for a little bit of time, and then it will factory reset, remove it from your home, and it's gone. So down below all of that though, system firmware, cast firmware, Google Assistant Smart Display version, these tell you the features that you have. So, you know, this will help you in the future. If you ever need to know why you don't have a feature, come and look here and then look up what version you need on the web. And of course, here on the channel, I'm going to tell you how to get that updated over time. Now, that's not to say that the device doesn't update on its own. It's just sometimes you might find yourself caught in a certain version or system firmware version. So now we're essentially done with the device settings, and that really means we're able to go through some of those other settings that will hold you up from certain features on the display. Now, up at the top of the home page here, you can see the settings button right here. And if we go into that, there's a few things I want to show you here, but we're ultimately going to go down all the way to the bottom and go to more settings. Now, inside more settings, this is where you have a number of things that will affect how your device functions. So if this is your first time getting a smart display or even a Google Home device set up in your home, you want to come here and get this set up. So number one, the nickname. What will your assistant call you? You can actually go into that and you could modify what the device is actually calling you. Now, your places. This is where you have your home and work addresses in the smart display in all of your Google Home devices. And this is when you ask it, how long will it take for me to get to work? Those two addresses will be impactful to that. And they will route you through Google Maps how to get there. So you can add in your address, and if you want, you can remove addresses later. Getting around, how do you get around in terms of, you know, do you drive to work or do you take public transportation, so the bus routes? Do you walk or bike? And then otherwise, what do you do to get around? You can make those adjustments. Now, your people, I'm going to show you a demo from a different video in a second here, how you can get things to be remembered. It's really the same on this device as it is on the Google Home Hub. So that's the demo I'm going to use. But essentially, you can make your device remember different facts for you and remind you about those facts. And you know, things like birthdays are really good, I think, to kind of put in there. Hey, this contact, and this uses your contacts to basically say, okay, this person, they have a birthday on this day, and that means that on that day I'm going to get a notification and a reminder and things like that. But also what you can do is you can tell the device, I want you to remember who mommy is. Now, mommy is this contact in my contacts list, and therefore now my child can make that phone call using that word instead of calling, in my case, Elizabeth. Now, there's other things to do to set up that functionality, and it's something that not everyone is going to want, so I'm not going to include how you get your kids set up to do that, but that's part of it right there, basically setting that up by account. And you'll notice that's my Google account at the top of this, so you would have to log into whomever you want to manage that with. That's their account, and therefore their people that you're getting the device to remember by. Remember that Elizabeth's birthday is August 3rd?
Do you mean the contact named Elizabeth?
Yes.
Now, that birthday was August 3rd, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remember that Elizabeth's birthday is August 3rd.
Now down below, payments, reservations, and purchases. Now, payments only work in certain countries. You're only going to have this feature if you're in certain countries. Basically, the US is the only one right now that can make purchases direct from like the Google store for shipping address, but there are other actions in that Google Assistant. So you can go in there into the payment section of the application, put in a payment method, put in a delivery address for where you want the products to go that you buy, and then you can actually buy products through this digital display here. So now up at the top, there's 3 settings. So allow payments with your assistant. Do you want to allow that happen? Do you want to confirm your identity before paying and then use a fingerprint to confirm identity? So that's on a phone with a fingerprint reader. You can actually use your fingerprint to confirm that you actually did want that purchase to make. So you can turn these on and it's relatively secure here, and then you're capable of making payments in different skills. Now I'm just going to skip weather here for a second, but the reservations capability, you know, this is going to become more and more impactful as we talk about Google Duplex and the capabilities of making reservations with your Google Assistant. So right now it's basically just connected to your account. That's all it is. Now purchases here, this is all of the different purchases on this Google account. So again, when you connected that initial Google account, you connected to all of those things. So if you have other purchases that you've made, they're showing up there. And then if you have purchases that you've made through the Google Assistant, they're showing up there as well. So you can review those. Now the weather, I said I'd get to it. It's basically Fahrenheit or Celsius. That's it. So what version of the weather do you want? And it's important to note for all of these, before I go over to the assistant side, for the personal information, that affects all of your Google Assistant enabled devices. Now, moving over to Assistant. The languages discussion for a smart display is more complicated. So you can see where it's saying I have English United States and I have French in Canada here. I could speak French to the device, but I could not get the writing out in French. Now, I think right now there is only English United States. And the reason I say that is even if I choose English Canada, you will notice that it says English Canada won't work on some of your devices. So that's specifically referring to the smart displays. They're only capable of basically English United States writing on them right now. The assistant voice is another piece here. You can actually change the different voices here, and you're choosing based on color these days. They just basically, as soon as you hit them,
the voices you can pick for your Google Assistant.
It starts to play.
This voice and want me to keep
using it, just stop here.
So you can go ahead and you can choose your voice. Now, initially, if you got a choice in the setup process, I didn't today, but if you got a choice, it would have been just voice 1 or voice 2. There's 8 choices here now today, and we're going to see future voices with celebrities and things like that. So, you know, ultimately, come here, make your assistant choice. Continued conversation for a smart display. I'm not even going to go into that menu here, and the reason for that is basically continued conversation right now doesn't work on any smart display. You could get the Google Home Hub, the JBL Link View. Doesn't matter. The Lenovo Smart Display cannot do the full continued conversation feature basically. So what it does do is contextually give you a follow-up capability. So there are 2 components to continued conversation. I have to explain that to make sure you guys understand. The first component is contextually knowing what you've asked. So if I ask about Scarlett Johansson, who I always ask about on these videos, because hopefully one day you will call me Scarlett, but anyways, contextually the device will know that I've asked about her, and then I can ask a follow-up question and say, what's her age? And these devices, and I'll show you in a demo here, they will actually show you on screen some buttons to follow up with different topics about what you've asked. And so you can just kind of use those buttons to continue, or you can re-wake up the device and have it basically answer that next question. So I can first say, who is Scarlett Johansson? And then the follow-up question can be, how old is she, not how old is Scarlett Johansson? And again, those buttons on the bottom are there for me as well. Now, the second part of continued conversation is leaving the microphone open. And I know this is one of the most requested functions or features out there for these smart displays, but it is still to this day not available. That's what they do not do on the smart displays. And I've spoken about it a number of times with different people. I believe it's intentional. And you know, if you guys want, you can continue to send feedback to Google. And I do believe they will move that mark on the smart display. Now, voice match, if you hadn't done voice match and you wanted to do it, there it is. Home control, we're gonna go through in more detail later, but the reason this screen we can go into right now, you know, basically this is an older interface for all your other devices. The home control section now is more located on the home screen. So we'll talk about that later when we're starting to connect other devices. But what you can do here is you can see the breakdown per connected service. So you can see Philips Hue here, and I have a number of services, or a number of scenes rather, and a number of lights, and they're all in here. And there's smart things and all my different sensors and things that have connected. So, you know, the other component is the rooms component here. And, you know, there's this big assign room capability right here. Most of these are actually scenes from Philips Hue or routines from a service called Yonomi. So they aren't actually devices, but you could, if you wanted, set devices kind of into rooms en masse if you hadn't done that, or they were sitting in the other room with basically nothing set up on them. So that piece of home control I feel is going to change, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it right now. Routines we're going to get to at the end, but here's the way to access those routines. And then email updates. Again, this is another setting basically for you to get all of the Google Assistant emails sent to you. So now let's move over to services. Voice and video calls, and this is where the rubber starts to hit the road here in terms of capabilities on the device. Now, mobile calling, if you didn't already get this at the start of the process, and I'm betting you did, if you don't already have your number in here, you can actually go into your number and you can add or change that phone number, and then you will get a text message on the device, have to put in the code that it basically gave you, and then you've put in your calling number, or basically what will show up when you make calls from all your Google Assistant enabled devices. So it will use that phone number so people know that you're calling, even though you're calling from a Lenovo Smart Display. Now moving on to video and voice applications, and this is where you can link up Google Duo. So you can see that little link button there, and what I'm going to do is put in my phone number here, and then once I've done that, it basically links to that Google Duo account. So you already have to have one of those. It's a free application download on your iPhone, or it's already integrated on Android devices. So I'm just going to type in my number here, and then we'll get it connected. Because my number is already linked to Google Duo, that basically linked my account. That's it. Now, if I wanted, I could block numbers and I could unlink my Duo account. So now, just because we've gone ahead and we've put that Google Duo account, what I want to show you is how to get it linked right in with this device. So if I go back to the Assistant settings, and what you will see down below, and I didn't show this before, are the Assistant devices. Now you see my kitchen display, and when I go into that, here's a number of additional device settings. So, you know, this basically will allow you to go modify the name again, modify the address, so you could set a different address for this display versus your other displays. You have personal results, and you have home screen and notifications. All those things you can turn on and off here, and you could turn on a restricted mode all the time, or a TV content filter. Now down here, Duo video calls, do I want to link that? Why, yes, I do. So go ahead, hit use Duo, and now the Duo video call capability is available. Back into the services tab, there's the music, the news, the photos and videos, and we've already seen some of these connected services, but the music, clearly, that's a quick ability to add different music services. I'm going to show you a little later when we get closer to the music demo here, how that actually can interface with Apple Music at one point. There's a specific way to do it here. The news services, so whenever you ask for news, these are your different news sources, and you can go ahead and add news sources. You can add it by country, and then you're able to just add them, and later, once you've done that, you can change the order here just inside the application, so you can actually drag things around. Now, an interesting thing or interesting component for your smart display is right here. You'll see video available on smart displays on certain news sources. So, you know, for CNET there, if I request news and we get to that news on the Lenovo Smart Display, I will get an actual video to start playing. Continuing down now, photos and videos, and what I'll say is I've already linked my Netflix and YouTube Kids accounts, but ultimately what you will see here is the ability to just link and then put in the credentials to that account. Once you've done that, you can use those services. Now, again, Netflix does not work on this, but you could request Netflix to play on a Chromecast through this device. So if you have a Chromecast on your TV, you could still request this to happen. Now, Google Photos is down here as well, and you can turn on that integration with that Google account that you use to sign up here in the application. So that's the only one you have Google Photo access to today. TVs and speakers allows you to manage your TV and speakers. You could add another if you'd like, and this is Google Cast devices that are on your network. So you can go ahead and hit that add, but this is just another method of adding new devices, which again, we're going to get to later in the video here. Now, your calendar, your shopping list, your stocks, all of those are the same functionality across, you know, a Google Home Hub or a Lenovo Smart Display. So I have a previous video that explains everything for these three services. I'm going to bring that up right now, and you can watch it for the Google Home Hub, which again acts exactly the same on this device. Now, the calendar function, you know, I mentioned this earlier, it's really going to use your Google Calendar. So whatever account you've signed into is the account that shows up here. All you can do really is choose from those calendars that are integrated with Google Calendar. So let me show you that. Here, and again, I'm using an iPhone. If you're using Android, this is a lot easier. But if you had multiple accounts added into here, you could use multiple Gmail accounts or Google accounts to manage your calendar there. So you can go ahead, you can add in extras of those, but as long as you've used that same account to set up your Google Home device or your Google Assistant enabled device with your calendar there, you're going to be fine. It's going to use that calendar. After that, like I said, it gets a lot more complicated to integrate an iOS calendar with a Gmail calendar or a Google Calendar. So separate video, needs some separate treatment. Can't show you that here today. Now we're back to the shopping list. Again, this is just another shortcut here to the shopping list, and your stocks are down here. Now that's again attached to your Google account. So you can see how all these services are attached to your Google accounts, or for the most part they are. So, you know, if you add in stocks here, you can just tap the add, and then you're going to get those as you ask. Now, obviously, with something like stocks, you can just ask for a specific stock from Google anyway. So that's really just giving you, hey, my favorite stocks. So let's run through a couple of demos here. We'll go through calendars, we'll go through stocks, we'll go through the news. Let me show you how some of these services are actually working. Add an event to my calendar.
What's the title of the event?
Go to work.
All right, when is the event?
Today at 9 p.m.
All right, go to work today at 9 p.m. Do you want to save that?
Yes.
Okay, I saved your event.
What do I have on my calendar for today?
There's one entry today. At 9 p.m., you have go to work.
Show my agenda for tomorrow.
Sorry, I can't find anything on your calendar for then.
What's the news?
Here's the latest news. From CBC News, hourly edition, at 8 p.m. today.
What's the stock price for Google?
Alphabet Inc. Class A is trading at 1,059 United States dollars and 68 cents per share after.
All right, so now let's go through the application in its entirety. And what I mean by that is the Google Home application on an iPhone or an Android. It's really going to look very similar at this point. You might start to have additional buttons here if you have a thermostat or cameras in your home that connect with your Google Home application. But ultimately, these screens are all the same and the capabilities are all the same. So let's walk through the application in its entirety. And what I'll say is, again, this is going to be exactly the same between the Google Home Hub and the Lenovo Smart Display. So I'm going to bring up that video now. So the first thing I want to do is show you some of the interface in the application, and then we'll move through kind of the voice control, different things there. Now the home right up at the top, you can see I have two homes set up in my home, mostly for demos here. But again, if you wanted to split out your smart home devices, you could, and then move them between the homes, and I'll show you how to do that later. There's also the off and the on button, so I can turn off things that are already connected. Now, if this is the first time you've set up a Google Home Hub, well, you don't have anything connected there. So, what you can do is, this is by room that you've created in your home. So as we set up rooms and we put devices in those rooms, you can turn off the lights per room. The next thing is the on button, which is just the reverse of the off button. Obviously, you're going to be able to turn on all the lights in the different rooms. You can kind of break them up in any way you like. Now, play is the next component. Now, play brings up basically all your groups. So you create multi-room audio groups or multi-speaker groups, and then it brings all your devices up. So this allows you to pick each one. And since I chose this one as bedroom display, that's actually what's here for me to choose. So if I just hit play and now I tap on bedroom speaker, it's now going to start music from my default music service. Now you saw I was able to actually adjust the volume right there. So this is the interface that comes right up when I've started it here. I can also stop casting, open the app. You can see I can move back and forth in the song, and I can pause, and there's also an equalizer here. So if I want to hear a little more of the bass sound, I can go ahead and do that, and a little less treble. And I'll tell you, the Google Home Hub is a little higher on that mid-range component of the speaker, so that's kind of generally how I play these ones as well. So little trick for you there. Now there's all the settings, which I'm going to go into later. That's the gear icon there. We're going to go into that a little bit later, but for now I'm going to pause the music and we're going to move on. Now, the next button to move down to here is our broadcast button, and this allows us to basically send messages from any other device in the home to all of the devices in the home. So go ahead, hit the broadcast, and then whatever comes up on when it comes up on the screen to speak, that's what you're going to broadcast. So let's go ahead and do that.
What's the message?
Does anyone need eggs? Does anyone need eggs? Now, in the very near future, you're going to be able to respond to that, and I can actually do that broadcast from out of the home if I just have the Google Assistant application on my phone. So that's really important stuff actually going forward. You're able to tell your Google Assistant, and I can show you how to do that here. Just in the Google Assistant application, I can go ahead and say broadcast. Broadcast.
What's the message?
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. So there you go. That's really it in terms of broadcasting today. But again, it's going to change in the near future where you're going to be able to interact with your Google Home Hub. And by the time you see this, that feature might be there where you can just simply respond to the person and they will get a transcription and a voice message of what you said back. So that's where you can ask about, do you need some milk? Does anyone need anything? I'm at the grocery store, and get an actual response back. Now the next button is add, and that's a bit of a longer discussion here, so I'm going to leave that for the second. And the next thing is settings, which again is a longer discussion, so let's leave that for a minute. But as we scroll down, the other connected or smart home devices are here in the, basically in the interface. I can tap on any room, so this is arranged by room, and there are the devices in that room, and then I can tap on the gear, go in, and I can choose devices, delete the room, go into each device and its settings if I'd like. So there you can see I can choose the devices again, and I could go and I could add something, and that will put that device in that room. So, you know, really quick navigation or capability of changing things in and out of rooms. And you can also see the on and off buttons here on the interface. I also have those kinds of things here on the Google Home Hub. So again, let me take you through that smart home menu. On any screen, you swipe down from the top and you can see three sections: lights, media, and broadcast. Now, into lights, you can see by room, and then you can go into each room. You can manage them all together, or you can go into the new lights menu here. This is brand new as this video comes out actually, and you can manage each light independently. You can also go into each light by tapping on it, change the color if it's a color bulb. So you can see as I tap on this, the light actually in the room changes color. So, you know, there's a lot of capability here of moving back and forth between your lights and other home control elements. You're going to see the Harmony Hub a little later, so keep that in mind. But back into these rooms here, you can go into all the lights in your home if you'd like. You can turn them on and off, of course, and do all the same things you did before. Now, there is a View Rooms button up at the top right once you swipe down, and that looks just like your application interface. So you can scroll right down through your rooms, tap on the left to switch between rooms, and then you can go into even your Google Home Hub or other Google Home media device and use that there, or that part of it. Now, the media button, you can go through all the different devices that you have in your home. You can go in and start music straight from there if you'd like.
Okay, music from Google Play Music. Playing on bedroom display.
The last button in the menu here is the broadcast function, which allows you to broadcast to all your devices. That's the functionality right now. We talked about it a little earlier in the video though, but it does allow you to send a message to all the devices in your home today.
What's the message?
Hello, how's it going?
Okay, broadcasting now.
Now, moving down the list, you can see the ability to play music on Google Home Minis, on Google Home Hubs, on Google Home devices, anything that's Google Home. You can basically hit play on and it will start music based on your default music service and kind of what you listen to around this time. That's all kind of chosen for you. You can see the different sensors that I have throughout the home. And again, you can change the home and you can change the room, and you can see that I've already linked Samsung SmartThings. So that's something I'll show you a little bit later here, how to link some of your services and get them working. Now, the last kind of component down at the very bottom are your groups, and your groups are speaker groups that, again, I'll show you when we go to that add button here in a second. So let's continue through the application though now. So in general, the Discover page here has your ambient mode, pictures, everything that's being shown on your other cast enabled devices. So if you have a Chromecast in your home, you can see right here, I have two, and those allow me to go in and manage the ambient settings. Now, it's not always going to show up here. Not every device in your home is going to show up here. So it's kind of a discover page that's intended to let you learn about new functions. I don't use it a ton. Hey, you can come here anyways and learn about new functions and capabilities anyway. So let's skip over to browse, where we have all of our different connected music and video applications. So you're able to actually go into different applications. This is the YouTube application, so it's pulling videos based on, well, I don't actually know because it's not like I watch anything about George W. Bush ever, but you know, you also have Netflix, which I've already connected, and I'll show you how to do that later. Google Play Music, which we saw at the start of the setup process, and here's all the different services that I've connected, so you can see all those. And finally, there's more services at the bottom here that you can go ahead and add as well. Now, it's obviously very, very important to go through the music component of this. There are some great speakers on the Lenovo Smart Display, so let's go through music in its entirety here and really get you going with that. Now, from a very, very basic standpoint, we are capable of starting music on any of our connected services. So, you know, in the past you saw I had 3 different connected services. So let's start with that demo. Play Foo Fighters.
Playing Foo Fighters on Google Play Music.
Volume down. Volume to 2. So you can see I can adjust volume there, but I can also modify the song. Next song. And of course, I can pause or I can stop if I'd like. So stop. Okay, so now there is the ability to play this device in a group, and I told you I was going to do this earlier in the video. So we're going to scroll all the way down to the kitchen display, and then I'm going to tap on it. And then of course up top right, there's my gear icon, and I want to tap on group. So I'm going to add it to a group now, and I'm going to add it to my office group and then hit save. Now that means now this device is in the office group. Now that I've placed it in the office group, you can see my office group down here at the bottom of the home screen, and I can simply tap into there, and it'll sit here and it'll refresh a while because my network's a little slow. But the settings icon allows me to go in and manage this group. So I could choose the different devices, and you can see the 2 devices that I have in this. It's the kitchen display and the kitchen speaker, which is my Google Home Mini that's sitting here. Now I could go ahead and I could choose additional devices if I'd like. I can add my basement home, which is this speaker here. It's actually the original Google Home in my home. So I could also delete this group, and now that I've done that, I can go ahead and I can request to play on office group. So let's go ahead and do that. Play Foo Fighters on office group.
Play music. Playing on office group.
Pause. So you can see I paused the music here. It was playing on all of them. I was able to modify which one was playing what. So you're capable of managing volume independently, or if you go into the office group, you can actually manage that from this interface here. You can also set all of them to, you know, a certain volume if you'd like. Now, paired Bluetooth devices, this is a good demo to again stop and do here. So enabling pairing mode, you can do that right here. And now it says connected kitchen display using Bluetooth. Now I happen to think that it's a little more natural to just ask the device to enable Bluetooth. So that's actually an option for you. You can just tell the device to do that. Now, once you go into your device settings and your Bluetooth, you will see this device show up. Now that I've enabled the pairing mode, it will show up down here in other devices. Or, you know, your phone might be a little bit different here, but ultimately it just takes some time to get that Bluetooth enabled. So you can see kitchen display. I tap on kitchen display for this initial pairing effort. After this, it should just pair time and time again. So now because I've paired my Bluetooth device, you can see my iPhone is listed there and I'm in Bluetooth connection mode, so it's ready to receive audio from any application I'd like. So I could go ahead and I could use Apple Music if I'd like to connect to. So I'm just going to use Google Play Music right now. It doesn't really matter which service you use, but you can see I could just start music. Now you can see the ability to control volume. I now have two places to basically do that. I can also start to discuss or tell the device to change songs, but when I start to change artists or I start to change what I'm playing, it just doesn't work anymore, and you switch services to playing off of this device itself. So if you want to control by Bluetooth, you use your phone basically the entire time. The only thing you can do is move the volume up and go to the next or previous song. One last thing I forgot to talk about actually in pairing Bluetooth devices, if you want to stop that entirely, that Bluetooth capability, you've paired a device that you no longer have, you can just tap the X there and that gets rid of it. Now, the time format, you can obviously move to a 24-hour clock, and the preview program is something that is a little, it's more important for the Google Home and the Google Home Mini devices, but you can still allow email notifications and you can still hit join program on this device. So now this device is in the preview program here, and even though it's still saying off in the device settings, the preview program just gives you those early access to features. So you're going to get a little bit of a beta, and that might mean that you might get some features that don't work quite right. So now let's just go over to the settings page here, or the account page. And I told you before, this settings button we weren't really going to use, and that's because it's straight to the same screen that we just came from. So everything's the same there. Now, exploring the Google Assistant, I've hit before. The music we've seen before, but the difference with the music here, when you tap on it from a Google Assistant or you go in that from the Google Assistant app, is a little bit important actually. So I want to show you actually, as you go into the Google Assistant here, if you go and look for the music services here, so I'm going to tap up at the top, I'm going to go to services, and I'm going to go to music. Now watch for the difference here. So as I scroll down now, you'll notice one difference down here. Here's Apple Music, and you see it only available on iOS devices, and that's only available in the Google Assistant application. So no, you cannot use a Google Home Mini or a Google Home Hub and go direct to them and ask for Apple Music to play. However, here in the Google Assistant application, you have some ability to play Apple Music. So let me show you a couple instances of how that goes. You do have to do a little bit of extra work there. Once in there, you can see the different music services that are available. You could choose any one as the default. You could choose no default if you wanted. So down at the bottom, you're going to see Apple Music. Now, I'm using an iOS 11.x device here that allows me to do all of this. So I have an updated Google Assistant application, and my iPhone device is iOS 11. Now, skipping over to the Google Assistant itself, all I have to do is tap on the little microphone icon at the bottom. I'm going to ask it to play royalty-free music, and you'll see the assistant respond, sure, it's asking Apple Music. Now, let me show you. I'm going to mute the mic on my Google Home just so it doesn't trigger as I do this, but what's really funny about this demo is I'm actually connecting to an Amazon Echo Plus. I could do the same thing with the Google Home, and then I would also have the Google Home Alexa, and its capability for controlling
connect
music.
to my phone.
Searching. Now connected to Brian's iPhone.
Play royalty-free music on Apple Music.
Okay, asking Apple Music to play royalty-free.
Next song. Volume down. So moving back now to the home page here, I'm going to hit add, and first we're going to go through setup device. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to show you how to connect another service. Now, I've already connected my Philips Hue in the home. This process is going to be fairly similar to what you're going to see me do, but I'm going to tap down here where it says have something already set up. So this is where you go and you get your different connected devices in your home connected to your Google Home. So you can see already I have a number of different devices here. What I haven't connected, or what I haven't connected in the new way, is called Harmony. Now Harmony is essentially a TV control hub that allows you to control your cable and your DVD player or Blu-ray player and a bunch of different devices that work off of IR, and you get a remote with it. So I use it quite a bit, and so I'm going to tap on Harmony, and now essentially what it's going to ask me to do is connect the two services by signing in. Keep in mind, I already have Harmony set up in my home. I already have the application worked out, and that device is working in my home. Now, I used a Google account to connect and set up Logitech's Harmony Hub way long ago basically, and now I just have to use that account. You might have to sign in with a username and a password. I just have to tap that button. So now I'm authorizing the connection of these two services, and actually I have multiple Harmony hubs in my home, so I'm just going to tap on change which one here just so you can see the full process. This is the screen you would get. It would allow you to choose your Harmony hub. When you choose that, you're just hitting the arrow up at the top, and now these are all my activities that I've set up in the Harmony application. So same as Philips Hue or any service you're connecting here, what you're going to see is the different things you've already set up. They're basically going to show you a summary and allow you to make slight modifications. Now, I'm not going to change the ability to watch TV. So, you know, if I want to say the wake word turn on television, I want it to start the watch TV activity. So that's what this is saying in terms of Harmony, but we're not going to get into the details there too deep. I've just got to hit the next button a couple of times, and now I'm hitting link account, and we're actually done that process. So now as I hit the done, what it does in the Google Home application is bring up the devices that I'm integrating. So what this means is, you know, for Philips Hue, you're going to see a bunch of bulbs. And for this, what you can see is my Sonos speaker is connected to my Logitech, my movie, game, Netflix, and TV. Those are those activities that we just imported. And what I have to do here is actually physically place these in rooms. So as I tap on game, I have to choose a home, and then I have to choose a room. Now, my Harmony Hub is in the basement living room, so I'm just really going to choose that a number of times here. And the only exception to that is my Sonos speaker is actually in a different room. So that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and choose that different room that it's in. And this is all I have to do with all my different devices. So here's my Sonos. This one's actually here in my office, and I can go ahead, hit next, and my TV is the last one here. That's in the basement living room. And now I've completed the linking and setup process. I can undo some of these things. So what you're going to see is there in my basement living room, I now see those Harmony devices, even though they're activities. And here's my TV. I'll go back into that. You can see I can change the name, I can change the home it's in, and I can change the room. And if I'd like, I can tap Unlink Harmony and go ahead and unlink that service as well. So that's really it. Now from there, let me show you how to go ahead and actually use that functionality. I'll show you a couple of different interfaces in terms of being able to control it with the Google Home Hub, your voice, or the visual interface here on the device, and or controlling it. And I'll show you what Harmony is actually doing at that time. Turn on the TV.
Sure, turning the TV on.
As I showed earlier, you can pull down and then tap into the lights function here. And both of these devices can scroll through your different rooms, your different lights, and you can tap on, and then you get this control interface here that you can adjust your devices on. Now, you can turn on and off, and if you had color, you could also adjust that. The second component of that menu is the media. Now, media allows you to actually cast to different devices. So you can bring up any of your cast enabled devices, and then you're going to be able to push music to them. And here comes music from the Google Home Hub over to the Lenovo Smart Display. Now, vice versa here, let's get the Lenovo Smart Display starting music over on the Google Home Hub. The other component of that menu is called Broadcast.
What's the message?
And this just allows you to broadcast a message to all of your Google Assistant enabled devices in the home.
Hi, how are you?
You can see me playing with the volume. This is a do not disturb mode, so you can kind of turn off a number of the features there, including the voice calling. Over here is the brightness setting, so you can turn off automatic brightness. I'm going to leave that on. It actually was very effective over the time I used it. And then there's kind of a settings and about. You could do your factory reset through this if you ever had to do that. Now after this is the interface that you will get used to very quickly. So you can see the weather instantly, and you can also see my calendar. Scrolling to the right, you can see the music service I set up. YouTube is instantly there, and then there's a number of things that you can kind of play with, and explore button for the Google Assistant, which I'll go through later. But right out of the box here, I can go ahead, because I've set it up on the Google Home application on my phone, I can go ahead and start music. Now, of course, the great thing with any device with Google Assistant on it is that you can use Google Assistant to execute actions. So you're going to see me actually stop that. Now I'm going to start using my voice to turn on different features. I'm going to turn on YouTube, and you might recognize the guy here. You can see how quickly and seamlessly it was to actually ask for something on YouTube. What I will tell you is it plays the most recent video from a channel if you ask that. Now, Of course, there's all kinds of other things that the Google Assistant can do. I'm going to ask it to play ocean sounds right now. And as I do that, it just brings that up. It starts playing it, and it went for a long time there. You can also, of course, use the visual component of this device. I wanted to see what Scarlett Johansson looks like. I kind of know what she looks like, but I still wanted to. And then you can see, you can have these follow-up interactions. So I could use the wake word and then say a follow-up question. But I can also use these buttons at the bottom of what the Smart Display is giving me for results after my query. I could use those to go ahead and just continue the conversation. And what I'll say with that is my child found that very easy to use. Now, here's all the different things that you can do right out of the box. You can play music, you can check the weather, set alarms, play videos. Finding food recipes and then displaying those is something great on this device. Setting timers, making phone calls, dealing with your calendar, of course, all the smart home functionality. There's all kinds of questions that you can ask, simple stuff. Have some fun here. What sound does a duck make was pretty interesting. They kind of had that pre-created, and then there was the ability to follow up. Now, phoning after you've uploaded your contacts is this simple. Phone this individual. It starts the actual phone call, and you can ask your Smart Display to actually hang up the call. And of course, just like Google Home, you could put it on hold, you could put it on mute. There's a lot of things you can do there. Now, on the side, because there is a camera on this device, there's actually a shutter here, and you can see the little red dot that's gone over the camera outlet here. That actually goes up and down and enables and disables the camera. Of course, I showed you the mic before, but you can use that to turn it on and off. So you can stop the device from seeing, and you can stop the device from listening. The other thing I will tell you on this device right now is right at the front on the right, there is a light sensor and a motion sensor. So this device is going to be capable in the future of knowing when you're around and reacting. And I think what we're going to see with that is the ability to actually trigger home automation with this, or all kinds of types of automation with that feature and those sensors. Here's what it looks like in order to control those devices. Turn on the phone charger.
You got it. Turning on the phone charger.
Now you can see here, I can also use the device visually to actually turn on and turn off the smart home devices I have in my home. So once you actually trigger something with your voice, that device comes up and you have a visual interface to interact with. Now,
sure, turning the office light on.
Set the computer light to 100%.
Okay, setting the computer light brightness to 100%.
Change the computer light to green.
Sure, changing the computer light to green.
Now again, you can control using your hand actually once you've started the control process. So you can see I adjusted the color on a hue bloom light, and I can adjust the brightness as well. And of course I can turn it on or off. All right, so there you have it, everyone. That's my full setup for the Lenovo Smart Display. I hope you've gotten yours all working it, but if you haven't, leave that comment down in the description below and let me know what's going on. Happy to help as much as I can here. Obviously, at some level, we're gonna either have to speak to Lenovo or Google on these devices if it just gets too deep or too complex, but happy to try and help you out with these devices. So, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.